so boring. In the back, nobody has to shut it. Take the.
Yeah.
Usually on.
Yeah.
You. Not gonna make it. I gotta go celebrate with one now. Oh, take over.
You know, kind of easy that and watching you do this. 1 month.
Wait, I didn't, yeah, keep it up. Go another.
Seriously, so I'll train through that.
Well, and I'll read it all. I know.
That's fine, going very good. I got it. Nah. Off the end, I could be like you.
All night.
Good. Yeah, I'll tell you. I don't know. I saw her do that.
How many play third?
We're gonna try and.
James?
Yeah. I like, I like his personality for you. Your personal. No, I just, I like his demeanor, yeah, so. Guy, one of the, yes.
5 hour drive.
Yeah.
The lawyers aren't gonna come straight to my phone.
Oh.
All right. You can actually think about those now. Oh, really? Why I like liquor last weekend, that was. Well, before the fire. Okay, somebody steps. Yeah.
Next time I think.
Oh, we're doing good.
No, for reasons here. That shows everything except.
Yeah, white lights all the way around the house. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come in for that.
Get out the.
And, no, we just got. And, yeah, that's.
I have to, I'll be best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take photos. Don't be a lot of second. I thought that's nice. Super useful. Yeah. Yeah. Cold actually. My garage like conditions. Tony, give it one of these. Yeah, maybe, you know,
We're not.
on the way out.
Deploying dynamite.
Yeah.
Uncle Rick over the leftover cake. I was like, hey. So, you know, said, okay, we want the leftover smash cake. We have to on like. Yes.
Yeah.
You see it on the right side. I heard that. You survived it.
I don't go where.
Finance guy.
He's the first guy in.
Yeah. Like Marlon's inside. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Marlon. Swordfish, Marlon.
Something.
Like. I'm gone. Oh, wait.
No, you know the video thing? We're just looking for acknowledgement. Alright. Get to 97.
Get started.
Well, that's really late in the meeting, now. Let's just do it top. Sarah, online yet?
Yes.
Sarah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
You
me?
didn't hear me Saturday night when you were leaving the rec center after your swim. I was calling out to you from across the gym.
Nope, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, good evening. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Monday, December 1st, 2025 meeting of the Orono Town Council. Roll call shows that we have Councilor Larway, Councilor Hardison, Councilor Marks is with us online, Councilor Demerit, Councilor Powers, Councilor Baker, and Councilor Quinn. Agenda review. This is the time in the meeting where we look through the agenda. We remind people what's been referred to our committees and see if there are any items that need review or clarifications or potentially to be added to tonight's agenda. Anybody have any questions or concerns or additions? Okay. Already made up 4 minutes. Item number 3 is approval of minutes of the November 17th, 2025 council meeting and the November 18th, 2025 council kickoff retreat with staff. Could I have a motion to approve both of those?
So moved.
Moved and second. Any discussions or corrections? Okay. All those in favor? Oh, we're gonna do a roll call. So we'll do a roll call. Councilor Larway,
In favor.
Councilor Hardison,
In favor.
Councilor Marks,
In favor?
Councilor Demerit's in favor, Councilor Powers,
In favor.
Councilor Baker.
Abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay, Councilor Quinn.
In favor.
Okay, that passes unanimously, 6-0. Made up a minute. Public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to talk with the council and I suppose the public and the community about anything not on our agenda. Is there anyone with us this evening in the audience who has anything they'd like to share? How about our worldwide global audience? Okay, we'll move on from public comments. There's also an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment as well. And as always, we invite people to participate in our discussions as we go. Item number 5 is presentations, discussion items. This is going to slow us down a bit. We got a lot of work to do here. We'll start first with a discussion about potlucks. Councilor Hardison has been thinking about how we could organize those for.
Yeah, there's been some community interest in continuing the potluck dinners. I know that it can be, I don't think task heavy is the right word, but it's hard for one person to maintain doing all of the themes and lining up organizations to help and also being there. My thought was that there are 7 of us, maybe there might be a few of you who could take a month or 2 and plan on being the person that's there to open up the building and do setup, clean up, and close up. But I'm definitely volunteering to take the lead as far as planning what the themes are, activities are, and all of that.
Sounds like Brian might have some Sundays to book on his calendar as well, based on your discussion. As I've seen things
After
work.
the decorating's done.
Any thoughts from others in terms of participation and helping?
Yeah, I'll take a month or 2.
I'm certainly willing to help with like day of stuff. I don't know that I want to volunteer to work with a group per se, but I'm happy to be there on a day of and open and close and do dishes, which seems to be the job of the
Yeah.
council chair.
That would help.
Yep.
I could potentially do something similar to that, depending on when, probably later in the spring.
Okay.
When those months come.
Great.
My schedule has gotten particularly busy on Sundays and crazy, so I will pitch in when I can. And I can always give advice and suggestions on where to get stuff.
Yes, if there's any shared resources or contacts for people to help out or whatnot, just please let me know.
Yeah, also happy to potentially take on some weekends as get a couple under my belt.
Okay.
Are
So
we gonna stick with this, the first Sunday of the month?
yeah, and you want to start with January?
Yep.
Okay.
Big New Year's Eve party, first Sunday of the month. Not New Year's Eve, but New Year's.
It's New Year's Day?
No.
Okay. So January 4th. So you'll keep us informed and kind of you'll be sort of help lead us and then, all right, and then assign us as, okay. Excellent. So it sounds like the potlucks are on. Thank you for that. Those are a good time. Any other comments or we'll need staff's help, obviously, and they do a great job of getting the building ready for us and everything. So
I was just gonna, did you want to do that video sooner than later?
Yeah, let's do that next since we've already saved a couple minutes. Speaking of the community, and I'll Cody, if you want to run it, this will be my acknowledgement for tonight. I'm sorry, I usually go last, but I'm going to go first this time and share this with the council and the community.
Not ready for your squad. That's better. I just started with an arbitrary number.
Good job, good job.
That was fabulous work on the video, but of course, fabulous work on the event and dinner. So thank you to everybody who spent time and resources bringing that together. So next, thank you for the reminder on that, Clint. Next up, item B is discussion of council review of goals in draft form. This comes up later in the agenda for approval if we are if we have this together, but this was based on the work we did last year and the discussions we had in the retreat from the minutes we approved earlier today, I guess November 18th. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about what we came up with for edits? I think they get a little into actual deliverables as much as goals a little bit, but you know, we can't help ourselves a little bit sometimes. So if people don't have changes, where's that on the agenda later on, do you know? First action item. Mhm. Okay. Same thing on the service promise, Your Voice Matters. There's a few minor tweaks to that in terms of where we are, and those are there for people's review as well. I think we watched the video back on the retreat to get see that we try to incorporate people's comments. Sarah, you can jump on in if you need anything.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Goals and service promises, we'll move on from that. Unless any other topics on that? Good. Let's talk about vegetation. And this is particularly with the tree board. Item C is discussion ordinance chapter 38 vegetation. Clint, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, so worked with Megan Hess quite a bit on this. This all kind of started off, the tree board was working on this a little bit, and then you had the appeal here this fall, which realized that we didn't have an appeal in ordinance at all, which left us in a little bit of a place where we didn't know where we could go. So if you look through, that's the one where I'm going to highlight. On page 5 of 8, we put in an entire new appeals process. Basically, you have to take into account 2 potential appeals. One, a person is not happy with a tree that the board felt needs to come down. And these are town trees. These are things that we own. This isn't a tree in Orono. Sometimes we do deal with that question of like, well, you can't tell me what to do with my tree. You're right. It's your tree. You want to cut it down? You can cut it down. These are the trees that are on public land that maybe a butter has a concern about that we deal with from time to time. So the first one, like I said, we mentioned about is sometimes people will not want us to cut it down. There's a whole process where we can go through if we agree. Typically, those won't get to an appeal. My experience is the tree board's pretty good if they'll accept liability for the town-owned tree that may fall and they want it left. Usually that leads to they will or won't sign it, and if they don't sign it, we cut the tree down. But the other one, like we dealt with this fall, is if they want a tree cut and the tree board has deemed it's not ready for removal. So the tree board is going to opt into 100% cost of removal model. So that way, if they want it removed and they will pay 100% of the cost, it's on them and they can pay for it to do it. It's the ones that are not going to happen that way. The person comes forward and says, well, no, I don't feel I should pay half. They're going to stick to the 100% cost model. The appeals will then come to the town manager. And those are ones that I'll work out and we'll start having to deal with them on a case by case, but they will not come to the council for review. And that's a final decision. So if the manager, if they don't like the manager's decision, they do have the recourse to take us to court. But again, as a town-owned tree, it's our right to care for it and deal with it as responsibly. I don't think many people would go that far, but I will be listening to the residents and hearing what their concerns may or not be. We had a version where there were some criteria in here and we opted out of that. We think it's case by case and we didn't want to start spelling things out and leave some flexibility to work with residents. Other than that, there are, as if you keep going through, actually, why don't I pause for just a second and see if, because that's the biggest change area, I guess I would say. Outside of that, there was things the tree board wanted to clean up. They took out some language regarding Dutch elm disease.
Any questions on that? Any clarifying questions? We'll do clarifying questions, comments from the public, and then discussion. Well, maybe we won't because this is a presentation item, so it'll be a little more loosey-goosey.
Yeah, so this is on the agenda later. If you're happy with it, we got to have a public hearing. So there will be, yep.
Dan, can I ask one?
Please do.
I'm driving, Clint, so I can't see the document in front of me. I did look at it before, but as you were speaking just now, you said 100% cost to the landowner if they wanted to remove a tree that we were not recommending, and then I heard you say 50% later. So I got confused on which it was.
Yeah, any sharing, 100% is what the ordinance says. That's what the tree board's going to review it on. If a landowner comes forward and is willing to pay 100% of the cost, they can pay 100% of the cost. It's when they don't want to pay that cost, that would be a decision that gets appealed to me. They're not going to barter at the tree board level. That will happen at the manager level. And that's where we can start to look at extrinsic circumstances that maybe aren't appropriate for a board. Financial capacity may be one. What is the actual risk to the property they're looking at? This is where we'll take into account that, falling on a shed's not a concern that we're going to be giving much consideration to, but falling on the home would be one that we would take some consideration. Would that get us to a 50-50 split, a 25-75? It's going to be case by case with some consistency as we see the appeals occurring. But we're going with a model that if they pay 100%, the tree will get removed. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. As you say this, the one risk we're going to have is that a person that wants to pay for it themselves and then another neighbor doesn't want it cut. We'll deal with that one when we come across that fact pattern. We're not completely prepared for every issue, but we did kind of smirk and say we might get a situation where one wants it cut and one doesn't. And then I guess I'll have a couple good meetings with a couple residents then.
Thank you, Clint, for the information.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions now? If not, we'll look at it. It's an action item later on or for the call there. Yep. Under consent. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. All right. That closes that discussion. And we are moving into discussion D, presentation, ordinances, chapter 2, administration, article 5, finance division, purchasing.
Ready?
Ready.
So I'm passing a handout following my practice. Anything that's caught after we post the agenda doesn't get changed. There's copies available for the public and we will amend our agendas after tonight's meeting for the updated copies. But there were a couple little other changes that we saw that made it more clear, I guess, is the way I would summarize it without getting into them case by case. Jacob, jump in at any point. The finance committee has met on this quite a bit. We've been going over a lot of different ideas. Some of the key changes as you go through. We defined RFP and RFQ. There was some confusion. Sometimes RFQ, request for qualifications, or request for quotations, gets confused. We're going with the qualifications. An RFQ is a non-monetary type proposal. You'll see some small typos and some other language, but if you look at page 4, I think there's a typo right there. It says 4 of 3. Yeah, there is. I'll have to see what's going on in the numbering. But we're going with that. You don't have to advertise in a newspaper. Online is also sufficient. There's multiple ways that can be met online. Town website. We're using Gov Bids through Public Works right now. That's an online portal. We notify that things are on there. So we thought that was a better way to go, to notify things so that we're not always paying for advertisements in the newspaper. So then when you get to page 6 is when it gets to be a lot of changes. The purchase limits. That's what the council's been talking about. I guess you dealt with this a little bit before I got hired. We continued to talk about it quite a bit. And there were some gray areas. We started with the ordinance. We will have to update the town's procedures manual. But again, until this is done, we can't even touch what's going on in that. We want to make sure this is right first. This was reviewed to be consistent with charter. But so what we did is we went away from the term small purchases, and we're using the word purchase limits and everything. Small purchase, it seemed to almost have an opinion that it's small, and that may not be accurate. What is, small? To some people, different dollar amounts could be dollar amounts. So we stuck with the general rules that that limits are established by ordinance by the council, that the town manager is your purchasing agent, and will build procedures consistent with the ordinance. And then we took the next big step, is that we're really focusing on expenditures that are not called out in your annual budget or a capital improvement program. If they're in those, that's where we started to realize, because what was happening is, as we go through budget processes, agree to buy a $60,000 vehicle. So then by the old rules, we had to go out and get 3 bids, had to bring them into account to the council. The council had to approve that after they'd already approved a program that said to buy that. And there was enough money in the budget to buy that. So we went to the idea that what we were going to look at this is that we were going to set up 4 spending parameters. And we went with the first level to be under 10,000. Anything that's under 10,000, and again, would have a line item in the budget. So if anything doesn't have a line item in the budget, council has to talk about it. If we decide that we're going to buy something that's never been bought before, you have to talk about it. That's the rule. But if it's under 10,000 and there's money in the budget, that puts it solely in the town manager as purchasing agent to use our procedures on what we think's best, to use quotes, but to take into account what's best for the amount of the item we're going to buy. Then the next level after that was 10,000 to 50. This again remained with the manager, but the manager must use quotes and must take the low quote. I'm very simplifying. The next level is 50 to 100. We have to get prices, and I have to put it on a consent calendar. And the council would approve it in there. So if it's over 50 and under 100, it would be on the consent calendar to ratify that purchase. This was a tough one because the cruiser will end up on the consent calendar. But again, it is a cruiser. It's of a high dollar amount. We wanted to make sure you saw it. Then the final step, and this one was debatable, but it's anything that's over 100,000. And if it's over 100, we want to do competitive bidding. Or if I present an RFP or RFQ in advance of advertising and you approve that before we publish it, then it's okay that way. And then it still comes back to the council for approval and a final award. This will be case by case. Some might end up being consent agenda. Some may end up being actual agenda. Remember, a consent item can always be pulled by one councilor for action. We kept all the exceptions that existed in the past. And then after the purchase limits, we did get into a little further along, and I want to get the right page. Oh, I thought there was one. Yes, the bonding limits. And why am I missing the page? Oh, yes, not, yes. We currently had a $100,000 performance bond. And we took that to, we're doing usually more than $500,000, but we took it to the $500,000 and we put the purchase stating may, not shall. Because there's certain situations where we're doing things that, having a bond isn't really necessary for the service that we're researching or doing. Um, and again, it's only in improvements. Improvements are done, but this is when we're doing work to a building or a property. Typically, we would. If there's not, you would probably be notified. And again, if we're taking out $500,000 performance bonds, we're going to be under the over $100,000 purchase item anyway. So you're going to see it to approve it and know that that was there in the agreement that we did require performance bond. Performance bonds, just what we did discuss, we end up paying for them anyway. So there's going to be a fee they'll take to go get a performance bond from a bank or from an insurance company to meet that. If it costs them $10,000 to get a $500,000 performance bond, our project will be $10,000 more expensive. It's not like they're buying it and giving it to us. We're paying for that insurance. So that's kind of where we left some of that discretion in there. But those were the key changes. I'll stop there because I think this is more where the purchase limit should come back to the council now that the finance committee's had a chance to present a concept.
Anyone have any questions? Jacob, this came through you guys, right? So
Yeah, this is something we've been working on for several months and, yes, the finance committee is in support of this. I have a couple clarifying questions, but yes, we are in support of these thresholds.
do you want to ask your,
Clint, could
yeah, please.
Yep. Hey. Oh,
Go, Sarah.
I was just gonna ask Clint, for anyone who doesn't know, can you explain what a performance bond is, Clint? Because it's not the same kind of bond we're talking about later.
Correct. Yeah. So performance bond is if something happens to the contractor that's going to provide the service and they're no longer able to keep it. We then go and exercise the performance bond, get the money, and then go out to find somebody else to do it for more or less money than what we received from the performance bond. Doesn't mean we're going to get it for free. It just means we get some money back from them for not being able to complete. Sometimes the performance bond also is for poor workmanship as well. So they give us a product and it doesn't meet the standards it was supposed to. They decide they don't want to pay. We have a performance bond. We can go use that to get it corrected. Usually a last resort kind of option.
Okay. Any other, Jacob, you had some questions?
Just a
comments?
clarifying question, Clint and Sarah. So, for the 50 to 100,000 threshold, so the town manager's purchasing agent insofar as practical. So how I read that, and I believe our conversation was, so police cruisers, we get them from Quirks. We always get them from Quirks. They do the specs, et cetera, et cetera. If you go buy a police cruiser, I don't expect you to go get 3 quotes because we know who we're buying them from. So I read that as the insofar as practical means that you don't actually have to get 3 quotes for something like a police cruiser.
Correct. And we would
Okay.
be bringing back under a sole source procurement and we would make that clear in the recommendation. Yep.
So yeah, the general goal is to make that as streamlined as possible. So perfect. Yep. Then yeah,
But just to follow up to that too, again, just to clarify, there would be a difference if that police cruiser had already been approved in the budget. Is that correct? And this would only kick in for one that had not been approved?
No, because it's over 50,000, we felt that it still needed to be, the council needed to see it for acknowledgement. Under 50, we do not have the council seeing it for acknowledgement. Over 50. This was the tough one because we have a lot in that 50-ish $1,000 range, but it just felt like if we went any higher on that without getting council approval, we might be not fully disclosing all the things that are being purchased in a way that was in a set of council meeting minutes. That's the best explanation I can give. At some point, there's got to be that line of when we do and when we don't.
and I also will add from a transparency piece. I mean, all of our financial reports are available to the public. Zach, Clint, myself sign off on all of the warrants. meaning invoices, as they come through, those are also public that anybody can review at any point in time. So I would add that we try to balance full transparency with efficiency as well. Clint and staff don't need to come back to council for approval on everything they buy. That's already in the budget.
And I think too, like in an agenda setting process, what comes to mind is the interpretive plan. That was under $50,000, that agreement we signed to do that. I might present that to the council leadership and say, you know what, I'd like to see this on a consent agenda for the council to approve. I think it's good transparency for the public to know. The converse of that is sometimes we're buying those items that are $18,000 and it's just 2 sets of turnout gear for the fire department. And yet under current rules, I'd have to have that on a consent agenda. That was feeling very awkward.
Yeah, Clint, I'm in perfect support of, that makes total sense to me. So you're saying that under 50, if it's in the budget already, it doesn't need to come to council, but over 50, it's going to come back to us, even though it was in the budget, on at least a consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
So my concern is, again, I'm driving, I'm almost there, by the way, I'm now in Orono, but my concern is the wording at the top of that section. Does it imply that every item that's already been approved in the agenda, I don't know, we need to look at that language at the top. Could someone read it out, just the beginning language under general?
I mean, I can read it out, but I thought this was the section that we went over specifically in finance committee and agreed to. But I can read it out.
Thanks, Jacob. I'm worried about whether it in fact makes it clear that something shifts about whether it has been in the budget or not when we hit that 50 mark. Can you just read it?
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, the under the general section, it says any expenditure not in the annual budget or capital improvement program must be submitted to the council for approval. So anything not in the budget needs to come to us regardless.
Got it. Thank you.
And this section covers everything that's in the budget or capital improvement program. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's also a complaint process in the ordinance that you didn't touch too, right? So if someone feels like it wasn't fair, they want to appeal.
Yes, that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one of those in my time on the council yet, but, and I hope we don't, but at the same time, that's another layer of transparency. Bid protests on page 10.
And Clint, there's language also within, as I recall, section 1, 2, and 3, all indicating that there'll be a record kept of every process that was used and the bids that came in, correct?
Yes, we got to figure out for how long and what, but typically we're using financial standards for those that we maintain them that way.
And is that description not in item 5 for a particular reason? I think it's the only number which didn't have that description about the records would be kept. Is that because it's all being talked about in the public meeting at council level, or I just was curious? I noticed it wasn't parallel there.
Well, yeah, and except for the fact that it's probably going to be in the agenda. I don't know why it would be that way. Yeah, I mean, you could add it.
I just
We're
wondered.
still going to have a heat. Yeah.
I thought maybe it should just be in 5 as well, as long you're good documenting it anyway, right? So that's up to you.
So that sentence in 4 moved to, yeah, we can
Okay.
add it there too. Yep.
I just wasn't sure if you were thinking you weren't going to do the same process, but if you are going to do the exact same process anyway, I think it probably should be there if it's in 2, 3, and 4. But
Okay. And again, we're going to call a public hearing, so we'll have a public hearing and a chance to talk more about it then, and we'll have a chance to talk about it, of course, as an action item before it's approved too. So any other questions or comments? So it feels like when we get to this matter on the consent agenda, we'll be ready to go.
Clint did a great
Okay.
job on this. I would like to comment, and so did Jacob, as someone who was on the committee. They both did really great work.
Zach too.
Yes, Zach too. Sorry.
No, just good.
Okay. We're gonna move on from this one, and item E is discussion on bonding, and we're planning for an hour on this one. So let's see if we can't get through it. And the hope is there is an action item on this item later in the agenda as well, right? So the hope is we kind of suss out where we are, where we're going, and then it's order 25301 in the action items. So let's take it away. Clint, you want to kind of walk us through it?
Sure. I don't know. I think it's going to be easier to walk through. I mean, there's a lot of information here. There's been this has been heavily vetted at multiple meetings. It's part of your capital improvement program. It's considered in your budget. We've had outside meetings outside of this, as well as the finance committee has been working on this for the past few months to get us a point where there was a packet here for your review. So I think it's hard to sometimes summarize these as best you can. But the reality here is that right now is we have a list of projects. Right now, 4. That is not all the projects that are facing the town of Orono. They're the ones that are imminently in front of us. If you want to see other potential projects, read the capital improvement program, or the one that's about, there's more. There's also the ones that never hit those, because you're never prepared for everything. Things can come at you. But some of the ones that come to mind, we're in an aging building right now. The HVAC system was called out in a report you did a few years ago. We have not contemplated how to deal with that yet. So at some point that will be in a capital improvement program and we'll figure out how to deal with it. So step one, I guess, is step one is to start looking at these projects and say now or not. And again, hopefully the next step is we got a list of money that we could use that we currently have. And there's pros and cons to using each of them. At the end of all of this will be there will either be more money than we need and we don't have to borrow, or there will be money that we need to borrow. I'm fairly certain there'll be money we need to borrow. The entire wastewater program and recommendation in this is built around the idea of bonding it. There's no additional revenues to a great extent that they can use. So if at that point, the net balance needed to be borrowed will be the amount we set for bond. So I know there's a lot of variables of this, but it really does come down to which ones of these projects are we going to tackle right now? And the money that's available that the town has that we've shared in these documents that I can go over with you, how much of each of those will we use to offset those costs, if any? And then at the net side, then that's the amount for bonding. You are not done. That means the bond advisor has to start writing the documents. Then we have to hire an attorney as a bond counsel. We have to prepare documents that have to be presented in public hearings. We have to have public votes of the council, and so the public knows what we're doing, what the interest rate is we're borrowing at. We have to go out to bond rating. So we have to get a new updated document on our bond rating. There'll be a lot of staff work. So this is, kind of just the first step in. And there are more steps to come to follow. But again, what I'm trying to get to from the council is which of these are your priorities right now and which of these funding sources. So it does quickly move into I'll get it the right name of the document. Bonding options, I believe, is the name of the spreadsheet. I can find it. Is that what I called it? Yeah. Considerations is the memo. And it is bonding options 2025 is the attachment. There's 4 projects in there. There's a concept memo is also from me as staff and I. And again, the reason it was called a concept memo or concept summary was to try to take us a little bit step closer to a recommendation without it being a recommendation. Because I feel at this point, the council's got to provide more input. What do you want? Where do you want to be? I've never seen a vote of this council. I know the historical votes, some going back many, many years of what we wanted to do and didn't. Now's the opportunity to say, which ones are we going to do and go put the money in place. So this is that last vetting before we go out to finding the funds to pay for it. So I just want to, it's kind of that check-in moment. We spent a lot of time doing it. From a staff perspective on the 4 projects really in front of us, I'm just going to touch on them each. One of them is the Route 2 project, which would have been a $3 million local match. There's no money to match right now. So we're saying remove that from your consideration right now till there's something viable in front of us. It's still there. It still could happen. It could happen in smaller increments You know, it could happen in bigger increments because of inflation. I don't know that. But right now, we know that there's not really any opportunities in front of us, and we're waiting on MDOT to give us more information. The ladder truck replacement. It is at, per your capital programs you've had in the past, it was estimated at a 20 to 25-year commitment. It is at that age. But the council's asked for us to come back and present some research from our neighboring communities, what it means, how it could look like. And staff's in agreement. We're willing to postpone this as we move into the capital program. You don't have to wrestle with that one tonight, but again, continue to be aware. We do own a ladder truck that hasn't at or close to its useful life. The third is the library expansion. It's been talked. I believe there's been some votes of the council. You do have to take formal action. That library expansion carries a cost of 2.6 million. The next one is the police station project. We've set a goal. We'd like to see it at 2.5 million. We have heard a number of 3.5 million. We already have 500,000 of it. So somewhere's between 2 and 3 million more is needed. And staff is recommending you consider that and the funding sources for that, since we did buy the land and set aside the first 500,000 and have approved the design. It's timely to figure out where we're going to take the money from to finish it, whether it's at the 2.5 or 3.5 number. And we've got some options on that. The last piece that moves us into the fee-based services for the council and the public. Anything done at the sewer level is a cost to the sewer users, but does not hit the property tax bill. So those ones are done as a separate borrowing because it's considered an enterprise fund. The ratepayers will pay for it. There's information about those in there. There are multiple projects queued up in there. Route 2 alone is a couple million. The sludge press is in there at 2.67 million. And we've talked about that a lot, and I can give further information on either of those. And then there was a couple other larger projects, Bennett Road and Hillside, that are aging systems that are at capacity or causing other issues that they wanted to consider doing. So the recommendation was to borrow $6 million for the sewer district and then do as many of those projects as we can, starting with Route 2 first, sludge press second, and then Bennett or Hillside being one of the next or both. And again, timing of this, there's a memo there from our bond advisor saying that, you know, it does make sense to bond everything you think you need at one time rather than doing it in multiple reiterations. I've talked a little bit with the finance committee, kind of on the sewer side. They have 10 years remaining on a 20-year borrowing that was about 6 million. It seems to be on capacity with them that they could borrow about 6 million every 10 years and never carry more than the total of those two debts at any one given time. So you're always working on a 10-year model. I'm not saying that's guaranteed. I'm saying that's the goal. On the town side, it's harder because sometimes you'll have to take into account economic development growth that could happen from a bond investment. But in the ones we're looking at here, I would say there's nothing that you really got to consider with that. You're actually just meeting the needs of maintaining your infrastructure or expanding your infrastructure, whichever it may be. So that was a long way to explain it, but I want to kick it at you because at this point, staff's comfortable with any of the directions you choose. We're just ready to see which ones it is and keep this process moving.
All right. So thank you. That's a good way to bring it forward. And I think from us, you know, I think if we have a consensus sense of direction that we can give staff and potentially even act on something as an action item, I think that's a good result for us tonight. And, you know, if we can't get there tonight, what's the list of things that gets us to an action on our meeting in December 15th? Because time is short and our sewer pipes are really old. So, Jacob, do you want anything you want to add? And then Sarah, as a member of the finance committee, in terms of just kind of overall what we're talking about?
Yeah. And I do have some questions, et cetera, but finance committee has vetted this 3 ways to Sunday, so I will give others a chance to ask. I just will say, as far as, you know, requests for additional information, I understand that we are dealing with imperfect data here, but we have already asked Clint and staff to go, we as the finance committee have already asked Clint and staff to go back several times in different iterations. So this is what you're seeing in front of you is already the result of tens of hours of staff work. So I just caution us, yes, if we need more information to get to an answer, that's fine. I just would like to see us, just understand that we are in an imperfect world here, and to, move forward with the information, do our best to move forward with the information is, and even if move forward is don't do any of it, that's fine. That's still an answer.
Council Marks, do you have any kind of initial observations before we dive more into?
Do. Thanks, Jacob, and thanks, Clint. And it really has been a really great process with lots of questions and information provided. I kind of just wanted to point out for council that when you're looking at the concept, let's see, the one that's called bonding options, which is a sort of Excel spreadsheet. I'm not on. There you go. Am I on now? There you go. I was just saying thank you to people before then, really. So thanks again. And bonding options for 2025 is the one that sort of looks like an Excel spreadsheet into a PDF. I do think it's perhaps important to notice that when you get here, option E here is actually not quite the same as what came out finally in the concept summary from staff. So if you take a look at number 4, and Clint, you can clarify if I'm off base anywhere, these numbers are slightly different. And I think that just came because staff had developed the spreadsheet first, and then there was more discussion and more questions. And when the concept document came, it's actually slightly different. So and again, Clint, please jump in if I'm misrepresenting, but my feeling here is that the recommendation now is 1.8 million from unassigned fund balance, 1.2 from freezing projects in the capital budget and not doing certain projects that year, and then 250 from the TIF, which you will see is not the same as what you see in item E. So I think it's important for council to notice that that option there has been altered slightly as staff continued their discussions. The categories I think that were taken out was using any reclassification of assigned reserves or any reclassification of 2026 capital projects. Those are no longer being recommended to be used. And the TIF amount is lower, which brings that total lower, and it would fund just the police station part of the project, not the library. Did I do that well, Clint?
Pretty good. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And will we go out as one for both the WPCF and what are the minimum the library, the police station? We go out as one bond for that, or would it be multiple?
Be done at one time as one issuance.
So that,
but it would have parts.
Chris's ratepayers would pay their share, and then the taxpayers would pay their share.
Yep.
Is it? What you want to talk about the bond, the Chris's stuff first in terms of, it's not Chris's stuff, but I mean, it feels like that's probably a fairly easy one to, I don't know, maybe it's not, but for those who live along the pipelines in particular, it might be an easy. So we got 4 options. Postpone all projects, do nothing, and probably start an immediate search for a new superintendent of the WPCF. So I think option 1's I won't speak for anybody, but option 2 is to bond for them all at the 6 million. 3 is to delay Hillside and Bennick for 2 to 3 years. And option 4 is delay Hillside, Bennick for 2 to 3 years, review the sludge splash replacement in 2027. I don't know. Anybody have any, let's start with, I guess, option 2. Anybody have any, think we need to walk back from that and pursue 3 or 4, or?
I will say I feel very comfortable with option 2.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for council and public to notice that the cost for that is indicated below at the bottom of the spreadsheet when you see those figures about FY 27 and FY 28. And again, Clint probably would do this better justice than me, and I'll stop, Clint, if you jump in, but it's looking at a 5% rate increase each of those 2 years, which would fully fund all of the bond payments. And he gave us very nicely, Zach and Clint gave us numbers for what was described as a approximate average home for a family of 3 or 4, typical usage, but then also the minimum bill, which I think is important because I know at least myself and I know others on council have always been very concerned about, how is this impacting the people who have the hardest time paying, who of course always do have options to come into the town and ask for relief around that. But the increase there is from $85 to $94 a quarter for minimum usage. So I just wanted to highlight for folks that the impact is there. And although everything counts, I feel comfortable that most folks could support this, and those who can't could come utilize our aid system at the town office.
Okay, Jacob?
So yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Sarah said. I'm good with doing all of the projects. If somebody wants to discuss pushing out Hillside and Bennick, I wouldn't argue with that either. But I agree that this is maintenance that has to be done. The one thing I will say that I am just keeping in the back of my mind is, we're kind of dividing these between taxpayers and the ratepayers. In my mind, it's this, for the most part, it's the same. Unless you're on well and septic, you are going to pay higher taxes. You're going to have a higher sewer bill. So, I mean, we just need to consider this all together, or at least that's how I'm looking at it.
Yep.
So
That makes sense. Anyone else have any thoughts on just on the options at the bottom, at the very bottom of the spreadsheet? I don't know, Sarah or Clint, or can you explain? I'll say the public, but I really mean me. The difference between option A and option B in terms of what the the 89.28 the quarterly impact, or
So there's a couple things going on there in option A and option B. The first things first is that WPCF has about $800,000 in their operating fund that they could put towards this right now. So instead of borrowing, and that's just for math, say it was $6 million, we could say, no, make it 5.2. There's 800,000 they could pull out. It takes it out. They would be at their minimum threshold for operating purposes. And that's an option. And then, so after that, or the other options, use none or some derivative thereof. And I think there's a few different ways that you could look at that and utilize. The next part is that how it affects the ratepayers. The fact that it falls under option A or B is unrelated. It's actually, I should have put a bar around them maybe to show that. It's basically showing the approximate cost of a family of 4 and the minimum bill. So when those ones come down, it doesn't matter. It would change. The numbers being used there, the 5% was based upon borrowing the full 6 million. I did not run the data of if we borrowed 5 or if we borrowed 4. So those numbers are basing on what the ratepayer would experience if we did the full 6 million as a bond.
and the two difference with the 230 and just in the option B, the 248.06, is that
Year 1, year
Yeah.
2.
okay?
It goes up to 236.
Fiscal year 27, 5%, fiscal year 28, another 5%.
Okay.
And then it stops going up,
Yep.
right?
And so I think, and from wastewater's perspective, these, all 4 are good projects. They are prioritized, Route 2, sludge press, and then Bennick and Hillside together as equally important for different reasons, I would say too. One's a capacity issue, the other one's an age issue.
Clint, did you tell us in Finance Committee that this puts us at a rate that's comparable to neighboring towns? It doesn't put our sewer rate any higher than area towns, or what does it do with our rate?
If you go back to the budget information we shared with you, assuming no increases from the other, they stayed static, we would be about the median at these rates at the 93.72 for the minimum rate payer in 2028. And that's assuming they don't go up. We wouldn't be we've been one of the lowest, if not the lowest in the greater Bangor area, but it would not take us up to anywhere near the highest either.
Okay, so anybody else have anything? So looks like when we get to this action item, there'll be some amendment looking for the $6 million mark. Is that people going to be comfortable when we get to that point? This is very free, obviously we have free discussions all the time, right? I think that's kind of our style, but when we get to the action item, we're going to be looking at that $6 million piece.
really stupid.
Talking about the waste.
Just now, so that's
Okay.
part A, and we'll go back and do the other stuff.
Really stupid question. Is the university on our sewer and water system?
Yes.
Yep,
So they pay into our system.
correct.
I've given all the hot water my teenagers use. I figure I'm carrying about half the load of this anyway by myself. So, Orono, you're welcome as always for my service. It's like 20 minutes. I mean, what, anyway, Dad's got a council meeting. All right. So now I want to go back and tackle the other kind of more. You okay, Matt? Okay. So the question before us now is what kind of direction do we want to, again, there's an action item. What do we want to go into for that? And I think there's some more philosophical questions here about unassigned fund balance and, do we want to, if you live on a street that's set to be paved in a year or two and, now it's going to be 3 or 4 years and those kinds of things. So what kind of direction do we want to have? And I think we're going to be a little vulnerable here and just kind of have a conversation about the direction we want to give to staff. Vulnerable? Well, you don't have to, but that's why we got John elected. Yeah. Sorry. Jacob Baker's it's a tough end of the table. What's the pleasure of the council?
I think it might be helpful if Clint could say a little bit about the 1.2 million proposed to come from the 2027 capital budget projects. I know in Finance Committee, we had some good discussions about that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm guessing fellow councilors might like to hear like what projects are getting frozen, because that's 1.2 million out of 1.5 that might have been there otherwise. So it's freezing a good chunk for a year. And you had some great things to say about staff's perspective on that and what staff might be doing with their time. And I don't know, I thought others might like to hear some of that.
Sure. So, so starting with your capital budget for your town, there's 3 major funding sources that comes from. The actual amount you tax people that year for, and it comes in the property tax bills we receive. The amount of money you put into reserves that's in reserves and you pull back and decide to use. And then grants. Most recently, ARPA was a grant that you use quite a bit of money from. There's none left. That's program's over. So we're mainly talking what's in reserves and what's in taxes. We've got a little over 2 million in reserves, but they're designated for many projects. So staff didn't really want to go down too far that list of what we could reallocate or not reallocate. But there is some money there. And that's where the recommendation came through in E of $200,000 from reserves, the existing reserves. The reason that works is because that's how much is in your interest on investment. It's not been allocated. And we're going to if you don't use it for this, we're going to come forward in the capital improvement program this year to talk about reallocating it. It's getting to a point where by the guidelines we put in, it's getting high. So that's that first number. It's a small piece, but it's the easiest one to explain. The next number after that was going through that whole list of $2 million of reserves and saying, are there projects here we don't want to do? We're going to get rid of them. Or there are projects this year, we could just dump them and delay them and not do them. That would take a lot of time. Council would have to really spend some time with us because councilors 8 years ago put money aside for something that that they put it there for. And we've been holding it for that purpose. It can be reallocated, but it's tougher for staff to tell you how to change a decision of a past council based upon what we think this council will do. We'd like to hear what you think you should do with those funds first. So we ended up backing away from that. We said, it's getting too confusing. And that's why into the manager recommendation or concept that staff and I put, we didn't use any of that. We said, just stick with the interest on investment. So the next number on this is in your capital improvement program is around 1.5 and 1.6 million is the amount of property taxes we're raising annually. So if you use that as we have been, we usually do about $800,000 to $900,000 worth of road work. And then you buy about $500,000 to $600,000 worth of equipment and other needs.
Are you on the spreadsheet now, or are you walking us through the narrative piece?
I am walking you through the spreadsheet, option E.
On page 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I got 2.
With the yellow highlight?
Yeah, it's with the yellow highlight.
Yeah. So the 1.8 is
Unassigned fund
unassigned
balance.
fund balance, 200,000.
So it's 200,000 is assigned reserves.
Okay.
Those are actually reserves we have. That's the 200,000 of interest on investment.
Okay.
The number below that was money that's in this year's capital program, which is becoming reserves that we could delay or move around. And just staff kind of said, no, let's stick to our plans. They were in the programs. We made some changes to the capital program already this year. I'd like to see as your manager for us to not get into that number. It just seems like it's not the right time to have this conversation. We should do that during the capital program. That's the 375 number. So we took that one out. The next number I'm going to talk about is the 1.2 million in yellow. Last year, that was $1,470,375. So that's the year before that was about 1.6. So again, 1.5 to 1.6 is what typical. Staff and I have had a conversation and contemplated taking 1.2 million of it and not doing any road work for a year, getting caught up, doing all the work we're going to be doing. And that means entering the 2028 budget planning year in the winter of 27, having nothing queued up for the spring, and whatever we queue up then would be that new start moment. It's tricky, but we have road work we've already queued up for this year. It's going to take quite a bit of time. And we seem to have been we're always planning out at least a year in advance of ourselves because of fiscal years. And it seems like we've got some scope creep on it. We got our third director in 2 years. We've got multiple staff that have taken new positions and they're all learning their jobs. And I think everybody felt as a common motive that as much as it's difficult to take a break on the road work, there's probably no better time than now to consider something like this. This is a chance to do it. That would be the most. That leaves 300,000 to be allocated. That would be police cruisers, some other reserves, some other projects that we've talked about, very minimal equipment at Public Works, but they have some requests they want us to consider. So I've got to go through those. That program is being built. You will see that in January and February, but it would really change the alignment. Instead of having 1.5 million to allocate, we know that the first 1.2 is going to the public safety building. And then we'd be looking about what's the next highest priorities of the remaining 300,000. And then basically we would show you the next year and say, we're just bumping it forward one. So that's that line. The next easiest one's TIF. About $1 million in the downtown TIF we could use. In the concept plan, we shrunk that to 250. We're still not sure what the public safety building is going to cost. The downtown economic development and growth, there's a lot of great ideas been talked about at this council. There's been great ideas in the community. There's been things in the comp plan that could be funded. Staff kind of backed away and said, you know, at this point, we would have close to, if you do the 250, we'd be close to, I think it was 750, the purchase price we did on our fund balance. The rest would be coming from there. We'd have 750 coming out of the TIF for it already. And so we kind of just looked at it as that's enough. Let's stop at that dollar amount. Let's not use any more. Let's see where things are and let some projects grow and go from there. That doesn't fully cover us. So then we got you looking at the unassigned fund balance. And depending on how you want to look at unassigned fund balance, we have the 2024 audit. We had 5.4 million in it. And again, I want to highlight, I did the calculation on that. I just want to make sure we actually had 5.9 million, but we took money out of it to use for the public safety building already. So I shrunk it down by that $500,000 for the PD capital. It was $500,000 we took out. So that's what got it to the 5,473,000. If you had a fund balance policy, you would have a percentage that we were supposed to keep. We don't have one. So I took, with conversations with the finance committee and our bond advisor, and I did make an error today because I've been talking about this so much. And we recommended 16.67% is what we should maintain. That is 2 months. 2 months of what? This is where I messed up. I said it was of your expenses. No, it's of your general fund revenues. That's the general fund revenues of the town. All general fund revenues in a given year is around 21 million. That's the money we bring in per year. That's the amount of money that I calculated against. That's what the bond advisor had recommended. You can find that. It's on page 12 of the 2024 audit if you want to see where we pulled it from. So that's how that number came up. And that's what gets you to the very next fun confusing phase is how much is 16%? Well, that would be 1.8 million. And during the finance committee, it was proposed to challenge it, to push it as much as you could. So that's why there's the number there of 2,850,000. That would take us to the level of we're spending down to about 12%, so less than 2 months. And our cash flow, which if you actually look, there was some work I did on this, but our cash flow we'd be close. We wouldn't be borrowing money to operate, but we would get to points where we would be really looking at the timing of paying bills. Spending down 3 million means our checking account could be close to zero at times. So that's why I said, I want to stay away from that one. I'm going to move more to that 1.8. Was it going to be for long periods of time? No. We have a good checking account balance that's invested very well. It also invited the other problem. The more of our unassigned we spend down, we start losing interest on investment. That's a revenue we plan on in our annual budget. So I started doing the cost benefits. We're getting about 4% return, I think the last I knew, on our money, and we're going to be told that we're going to be borrowing it right around 4%. So we kind of break even. Whatever we use, it's not going to hurt us or help us. So I just kind of looked at what's the most pragmatic. I'm going to use the prudent investor rule as our financial stewards of the town. I wouldn't want to spend much more than 1.8. And I will say to the finance committee, I said the same thing. The more you shrink that, the happier I think I would be as your manager. It leaves more room because I'm only a year and a half in. I don't know what you're all thinking all the time. I don't know what the community's thinking all the time, but I do know I hear a lot of ideas of other things we could be doing. And if we spend it all now, that's less than we could be doing. So when you put it all together, the concept comes up with more than enough money through use of TIF, using next year's capital improvement program to the tune of 1.2 million, maybe a couple $100,000 from the interest on investment reserve, and the rest coming from unassigned fund balance to meet. And I used a $3.5 million public safety building because I went to the higher number. We still don't know that's high enough. We're not sure. So I've been careful. And I did not use any money out of those sources. I said, the library's a done deal. 2.6 million in the concept says go borrow 2.6 million to pay for the library.
So the interest we earn on either the unassigned fund balance or just our reserves is about equal to what we're going to pay in interest on a bond.
Yep.
So I think about it in terms of, does anyone want to go? Okay. I think about it in terms of cash management and the things that we do we're a one company town. The University of Maine employs, obviously not everybody works for the University of Maine, but it employs a lot of our residents, brings a lot of our, a lot of economic activity into our town. And there's a website, I shared it with Clint before, there's just a lot of transition and uncertainty about the future, about what's going on with the university in terms of federal policies that we have zero control over here in Orono. In terms of we saw it at $50 million in funds for the university was frozen, seemingly a whim, and, it got back and those kinds of things, but they update their community weekly on federal transition information. The University of Maine system does. And a lot of that funding is University of Maine related. And I think about this in terms of, if we know that we're going to be investing, the library is it's not a forever project, but it's a multi-generational project. The police station's a multi-generational project. Does it make sense for us to, and if there's a problem with, if there's a recession that impacts revenue sharing from the state, because that's where that comes from, right? That's a share of sales tax and those kinds of dollars. Doesn't it make more sense for us to have some flexibility? All right, if there's revenue sharing goes down $1.5 million 2 years from now, well, that's the year you go in and you freeze capital spending, so you don't have to lay off employees and you don't have to come back to the town, the taxpayers, with a massive tax increase. That gives us some flexibility. If we build into these projects, based on the idea that we're going to freeze infrastructure investment, is kind of that's our escape hatch, right? If there's it seems to me, and Clint, you'd know better than me, but it seems to me that's the first place towns go when there's a major reduction in revenue outside of their control, before they go and raise property taxes by $1.5 million. So it seems to me that we should be thinking about, if it's a 4% to 4%, the money we keep in the bank and the interest we earn there can offset some of the interest we will be paying for the bonds. I think it makes sense for us to be thinking more along the lines of, let's bond for what we know we need to spend. and then have the cash management, flexibility to react to things that are beyond our control, and keep a more stable revenues and expenditures for the, the management of our fiscal house. But that's my thought, and I'd welcome people to react to it. Yeah. Okay, Sarah?
Thanks. I want to say that I agree with a lot of what you said, that there's a lot of volatility, and I wanted to kick a similar question, I think, back to Clint, and I'll do that in a minute. But I did want to point out that he's actually not talking about freezing the capital budget, Dan. He's talking about the 1.6 in unassigned fund balance. That's what's earning us interest. And so that's the part that if we don't use the 1.8 from unassigned fund balance, it's earning us almost equal interest to what we would be paying on interest on the bond. So and Clint, you could speak to this, but that's why I thought I've understood that from staff's perspective, you're much more comfortable with the 1.2 million capital budget being frozen than the 1.8 in unassigned funds being fully spent down. I thought I heard you just say you'd like the 1.8 not to be that high, to be lower. Did I mishear what you said?
I'd like it to be zero, but I
Right.
mean, lower is better than 1.8.
So you'd prefer that we're not hitting the unassigned funds, and
Correct.
that's not what you're saying about the capital budget. On the capital budget, you're saying staff is feeling like with all the transitions and as many projects as we have sort of halfway or partway done at this point, that there's some benefit to staff for freezing those projects for a year. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So I just think that's important to clarify. And then I also felt that I'm interested in us considering not spending down this unassigned fund balance, just as Clint has said, for the reasons Dan brought forth. But also I noticed when we had our retreat and this really wonderful part of the retreat where Clint brought to us what the big win accomplishments would be in every department potentially in 2026. And, I noticed right away that the big win project in facilities right at the front was a plan for HVAC in all buildings. And the big win in the fire department was figuring out the ladder truck situation, hopefully some regional collaboration if possible, but it's still going to cost us something. And I looked at those items and thought, to me, those are going to cost. HVAC is $1 million plus easy. And the ladder truck by itself, if we bought it, is $2 million or more. And if we're sharing, it's still probably close to $1 million. So I also think, in addition to what Dan called forth, that those projects are coming at us. If the goal is to get a plan in a year, those projects are going to have a cost coming at us in 2 or 3 years. And I would rather not go out and bond again in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not the best for our bond rating. It takes us through this entire process again. And I would kind of prefer that we look at bonding more of that 1.8 million now and not take it out of unassigned funds and have it available for these other big ticket projects we know are potentially coming. But I would like council to have a serious conversation then about if state money happens to go up this year, and we're lucky, that we put that money aside for those so that we're planning ahead and that money could get put back out to the, taxpayers to give them a break then. So I'm going to be quiet now. Someone else.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, so I agree and disagree with parts. As far as the pushing out the capital plan, that's one discussion point that we talked a lot about at Finance Committee, because there was a lot of concern because this year during the budget process, Clinton talked about how we were behind in our capital projects. And one of the reasons for the capital plan is to get us back on pace. So there's a concern that delaying a year would put us behind or even more behind. But after further conversations, it seems like, and this is where, trust you all, is that, Clint's right. We're behind. We have more than enough work to keep us through the next year, even if we push things off. And one of the things also that gave me comfort is, as Clint said, is, you know what? We tried for a year. If it doesn't work, it's just a year's worth of capital projects. This proposal is not, putting things off in perpetuity. It's trying it for a year. So that piece I'm comfortable with. As to using the unassigned fund balance, this is where I have some disagreements, is that I actually think that we should keep it at 1.8 or even, I think we should keep it at 1.8. And the reason that I think that is, yes, right now, or for every bit that we take out of it, that's 4% interest we are not gaining. However, we're in a declining rate environment. So that return on earnings is going to continue to decline in the coming months and years. It's just we're in a declining rate environment. So I guess, the amount of interest income that we can expect to receive is going to go down regardless of the balance. So in my mind, that's why one of the reasons I'm okay using, the 1.8. And then as far as, kind of fallback, yes, we have the ladder truck. Yes, we have HVAC. But in my mind, in those instances,
Hold on just a second, Jake.
Yeah.
Are the doors locked? Someone's trying to get in. Sorry. Thank you. Go ahead. No. I got so many other ways to do that. I don't have to fake I gotta, yeah, I got a gavel over here. That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So in the instance that those needs come up, I still think there is room in our capital reserve to tap into. I actually had the figure in my mind if we went down to 15% or 14%, but apparently I was doing the calculation wrong based on Clint what he just said, so I couldn't tell you. I had it in my mind as $1 million or $2 million to take it down to 14 or 15%. But either way, it's a chunk of money. I still think that based on industry metrics, we still have pretty substantial fallbacks for the what ifs, and so using those funds, using the unassigned fund balance means that we don't have to borrow. And just generally speaking, rough numbers, every extra $1 million we borrow is going to cost us about an extra $40,000 a year in interest costs alone. So I want to be cognizant of borrowing for the sake of keeping our bank account balance high.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, is it not true though what Clint just, sorry, I didn't
Go
have
ahead.
Dan.
No, please.
Is it not true though what Clint just said that currently we are getting that same amount of interest by that money sitting in the bank, the same that we would pay on the bond, 4%, 4%.
Yeah.
And I know you believe that the interest rates are going to fall for the bank investment accounts. And I totally trust you on that. You're an expert in banking. But is it not that, well, much more than me.
Still works for a living.
Right. It's
Yeah.
what you do. But is it not also true that that same economic volatility that's going to cause those interest rates to fall is the very same reason we might want some reserve money because the economy is unpredictable and that is why they are going to fall?
Yeah, I agree with that. And so my point is, I guess, is that, at 16%, we are already adequately cushioned. And so I am comfortable if we had to put an HVAC system in or something, and those reserves were to drop to 15% or 14%, we still would have adequate fallback and balance sheet strength to weather any volatility that exists.
So, okay. Anybody else? I wanted to respond to one point and maybe when I think about the capital projects for the upcoming year, I think if staff operationally is not able to, if we're not in a position to execute, is it 1.3 or $4 million in projects? I don't know what number we're talking about, option E, 1.2. I mean, if we're not able to execute 1.2 million in projects, great. I mean, not great. I mean, but that's a discussion we have in March or whatever the budget timeline is in terms of, okay, well, we either don't need to tax for that money, or something like that. So I'm concerned about here in December, given staff direction that says, we're going to take a year, we're going to freeze capital projects for a year and just push everything else out without, and I feel like we could react to it and use that money to offset the cost of the bond or, whatever, if we're not able to put the pavement on the streets or what have you. So, Andrea, I know you wanted to go, and I'm going to just suggest that as we move ahead, maybe the thing to do will be to take kind of a straw vote on what we want to bond and then how we want to fund it. And I mean, because I think what we want to pay for. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how we do it.
Right. I think we need what
Yeah.
Jacob said. not what we want to bond, but which projects we
Right.
actually want to pay for and move forward, and then how we want to fund.
And I'm happy to throw something out when people are ready to, because I'm comfortable being vulnerable.
Be a martyr. I don't care.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but Andrea, you had something.
Curious to hear what you want to.
All right, you ready for it? Rob, anybody else have anything before I lay it out there on the table? I'm going to suggest we go, as much as it pains me to say, Route 2 is not ready. So there's 3 million. Okay, so nothing there. Is the police station 3.2 or 2.5? I saw 3.2 in places and
It's being budgeted at 3.2, correct? Although we're hoping that we might be able
We
to.
already have a $500,000.
okay. So let's say I'm going to throw it out there for people to respond to, and then I've done it before and I'll keep doing it. I'll say the 2.5 for the police station. I'm going to say the library first because Lori's here. Yeah. And I voted on that first. So 2.6 for the library, 2.5 for the police station. And I'm going to say $1 million for the ladder truck. Just to throw it in there as a down payment on the ladder truck because we're going to need it. And we'll see how what people's reactions are to that. But that would be that'd be 5.1, 6.1 million of stuff to pay for. Plus Chris, we already covered your 6 million. Any reaction to that?
I agree with you on everything but the ladder truck.
Okay.
I want to look too at what option is going to set the town up to be proactive and not reactive so that we end up spending more funds than we have, or even going back and spending additional fees for another bond 2 years from now. I'd much rather see us bond the full amount, save our reserves, and then if there's we have an economic windfall and we can use those reserves towards either an emergency or to pay off or pay down the bonds that we have. Once we've spent once it's gone, it's gone. There's no getting that back. And if we are struggling to set aside reserves for projects, are we borrowing more, not putting stuff off? But I do have, since we're talking the ladder truck a little bit, during our workshop, we noticed the fire department go on a call and empty out the department. But 7 minutes later, Beezy's ladder truck came rolling through to respond to the call. And I'm just curious, why did Orono's ladder truck not respond? If it's out of commission, how long is it going to be out of commission for? And are we spending more to fix and maintain the current one than looking for a new one? I'd also like to know if there's any information in regards to grants, whether it's for the police department building, the fire truck. Is the town responsible for having funding in place or planned for in order to be considered for some grants?
Yes, no, maybe.
Trying to figure out which one to
Devin.
get first. I wrote down the first few. No, the great questions, all of them. And I was thinking as you asked, the ladder truck is out of service. It's an older truck. I don't believe it's back yet. I don't have the exact dates. I can get you the out of service dates. I don't know the cost of maintenance. I can tell you it does not meet the level of a payment on debt service. If you're borrowing money, I mean, it's not, you're talking, if it's a $2 million ladder truck, double it and divide it by the number of years is an easy math way. I always tell people, if you want to make it real simple, we're easily spending you'll be spending 200,000 a year on a car payment, ladder truck payment. We're not quite that high, although the last repair 2 years ago was over that, or approached that. So again, it's the risk, what the opportunities are. It's also one of the challenges we're finding out why collaborative ladder trucks may not work, because everybody wants a ladder truck in case somebody else is out. And they like to have the ladder trucks around to back each other up. For years we've done it. It's our turn to get it. It kind of goes around that way. As far as grants, ladder truck, none. We've spoken CDS, we've spoken on other traditional grant sources. There are no ladder truck grants that were brought to mind, and if that's changed in the past day or two, I'd love to hear it. But there was no grants for ladder, yeah, it's what no grants for ladder trucks. As far as the police station, we are pursuing many of them. We are working with the Benchmark. One of the pluses of hiring them is they had a resource that knew how to get some grants, and they were working with us, and they're working with the police chief to talk about funding sources. Top of my head, but wasn't one of them a secure area for evidence? Yes. So yeah, so an evidence room was one of the ones that we think we can get some money for that. Again, it's not 3 million, but if it's 100,000, it puts a dent in it. And we were looking at all those sources that we can find. Yeah, so those are the easy ones. And if I missed any of your questions, I think I hit them all. But I mean, as we're looking forward, that's part of why we're bringing forward the ladder truck discussion, I think later, is to look at it. There are some issues with it being out, and what's that mean
Yeah.
for the community as a whole?
Andrea, you ready to participate in the straw poll? If it's 2.6 for the library, 2.5 for the police station, and 1 million for the ladder truck. Are you ready to participate in that, or you want to not participate? Okay, what's it gonna be? Okay, what do you got? Like now? Yeah. I threw it out there. Jacob responded to it. Do you want to respond to it now, or? I'm gonna ask everybody to respond to it, but,
If you want to think, I'll jump in.
okay.
If you want to have an answer, go.
Go.
Are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right,
okay.
Sarah.
I want to say that I don't think that I'm ready to bond for the ladder truck now, which does not mean that I don't think we're going to have to spend money on it. I really prefer that we don't spend down reserves and that we have some money flexible. I just don't know if I think the ladder truck is coming at us first or the HVAC, to be really honest. So I feel a little bit uncomfortable bonding with a specific ask around that one. I feel like on both the HVAC and the ladder truck, we've been promised more information, and I want to wait for that information. I like the idea of the library and the police station, both being bonded and going forward. You suggested only 2.5 for the police station, correct?
Yeah, I mean, do you think we
And-
ought to do?
Right. So we have two different options here. One quotes us 2.5 and one 3.25. So I guess I want to hear from staff about, is the 2.5 feasible if we go in with that, or do we really need to go in with something higher and hope that we can come in under budget? Can staff answer that?
The two questions, both with different answers. So 2.5 may be enough, but we're still not certain. We don't know that number. So if you wanted to come in high and make sure you had enough, that is not high enough.
So you want 3?
0.25 is what's
I think, again, I can't guarantee you the not. I mean, alls I can tell you is we set a goal of 2.5, and Benchmark looked at it and said, we thought 3.5, and we still aren't 100% sure at 3.5. So, they're working towards that budget by the end of January, and we won't know anything until we get bids back in June and that guaranteed maximum price. I would say, gut instinct, if you didn't want to have to worry about it, knowing that some of these other funds are there in case we're a little short,
Yeah.
3's great, 2.5 isn't bad.
All right, I'm going to change mine to 3. You okay change it to 3? You okay at 3?
I am. I feel good at 3. And can I ask a question, just how the bond works? If we bond and we say specifically it's for the library and the police station, and we come in under budget on the police station, what are we allowed to do with that remaining money?
You are allowed to reallocate it to an eligible expenditure that must be capital.
Thank you.
You
Yep.
cannot use it to lower taxes, period. Exclamation point.
All right, so we got 3 straws for the 2.6 for the library, 3 for the police, and 1 standing alone for $1 million in the ladder truck. Rob, what do you think?
I think I am in line with what Sarah has just raised. I don't think I'm ready on the ladder truck.
Okay.
But I am also in favor of the 3 for the police station.
Okay, Matt?
So the tallest building, is that on campus? That's why we have the tallest ladder in the community right now. The 3 towns of Old Town, VZ, and Orono, right? Okay. Okay.
Give you the layperson answer. VZ's doesn't have a basket up on the end of it. So
Right.
it's got a different attack mechanism, whereas ours has that basket up on the top, which allows a different type of thing. People can be up there standing, working, whereas their ladder goes up and you walk off the edge of the ladder.
And Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
Can you or the chief also clarify, the Old Town ladder truck, however, does reach almost every building on campus. It was just there today, right? It was called out for a fire alarm. today
There's a
on
75 feet.
campus, right?
Yeah, there's a.
But it does reach most of the buildings, correct?
I would say so. I mean, and again, going back to my days with other fire chiefs and other communities, you can never get high enough. You like to attack from the top down.
Yep.
Egg
A
drop.
couple former chiefs will be so proud of me for saying that.
No pressure, Matt, but Joe lives on the 9th floor, his dorm room. So go ahead.
The chief is trying to say something
Yeah.
in the back.
Immensely different than what it sounds like, Joe, 25 feet.
And so if we went for the full, it's what was that again? For the full truck, it's 2.5 or something like that. 2.2, that was it. That's an equivalent truck to what you have here. Exactly.
All right. So we're gonna, you don't straw poll, you with us on the 2.6 in the library?
Absolutely.
Okay. How about 3.0 on the police
Yes.
station? And anything on the fire truck? You want to?
I'm still contemplating.
Okay, that's all right. It's just having a discussion. John, how about yourself? You want
Yeah, I think
second council meeting? No one's ever spent this much money in a second council meeting before.
not spending it, right?
Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah, I think in support of that, the police station, the library.
Okay.
Funding for right now.
Okay.
I did want to just say, like, I was thinking about where it comes from, and I couldn't find the exact wording in these documents, but was pretty compelled by the stated need for that year off or pushing those projects back. That like that there is stuff to do, and I think that can be really valuable just from preparing almost for a long-term capital plan to like have everything in order. And I don't know if there was any additional information about what some of that, like getting things in order might look like, just here today. Not asking for additional stuff, but, and it made sense to me just, again, thinking kind of big picture, that aiming for that, what did you say, 16.67%, what in line with the recommendations made sense. That I didn't fully understand everything in that memo. That's like a little above my pay grade, but
Try
it
writing
did
it.
seem like that at the bottom line that there was that like strong recommendation that this is kind of the standard that folks are shooting for.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Thank you. Anything else? Andrea? The vote is now closed. I'm sorry, you missed your chance. Yeah. What do you got for us?
I'm with the 2.6 for the library. I'm with the 3.0 for the police station. I want to throw in there 2.0 for the ladder truck, just so that we are prepared, so that chief can start looking at different models and the build. And I'm just not a fan of begging our neighbors to help with paying for a ladder truck.
Okay.
And I have one more question
Sure, Matt.
about the ladder truck. I've heard that these can take many years once you put in the order. How long? Like, let's say you came up and were like, I'm gonna buy this ladder truck and I'm gonna get it in January 2025. When would it actually be delivered?
Thank you, Tom Higgins, Fire Chief. So there's a lot of different programs, purchasing programs. If you were to buy out of what's going to come through is for dealer stock, there's options that way. There's trucks that come in that they just build in trucks into their production line that they know they can sell. So it depends on what the program is. If you want to do this big custom order with all the bells and whistles that you want, which is not what we would buy, then that could take 3 to 4 years. But with a stock program, like a truck that's allocated to a dealer that's coming through, it could be as short as 18 months. It could be less than that, depending on where they make it available in the line and what there is for a match. So there is some variation, but that can be a part of things. So the other thing that I think I'll mention since I'm up here is there may be some opportunity for trade value or for it to be sold in the private industry. Trucks that don't last, and because of our testing needs and everything like that, private industry sometimes wants it. So there may be something there that could help us with the purchase of a truck.
So they may argue that they already do.
I know what we'd like to buy, but I don't know the availability of it.
Yeah. So when are you going to bring us, since you're up here, When are you gonna bring us a recommendation on us to act on the fire truck? I'm looking at Clint and you, Tom, I guess.
Yeah, so I want to get the
Yeah.
capital improvement program, the way we realigned this, I want to try to get that stuff in there. Get you that level of information. If you want to have a separate meeting at that point, then based upon the information we're going to throw into the capital improvement program, we can do it separate. So that would be January or February when you start to see it and you say, you know what, let's dive deeper. I think we could carve some time there.
And if we don't dive too deeply into our unassigned fund balance and the HVAC, we'll have some
Remains a lever.
room. Yep.
Yep, remains a lever. Yep.
Okay.
I'm
That's good.
gathering information every day, so.
I don't want anybody who works next door to think that we don't want to make sure that we've got the equipment we need. I want to make sure families know that, they're sending their kids to Orono, that we have we can answer the call when we need to, and it'd be good to hear when the truck comes back online. It's not great to have it offline, and I'm glad that I'm always happy to see VZ, come
Right.
through, but yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so feels like, Andrea, you and I I don't think we got that's how straw polls work, right? So now feels like we got strong consensus on the library and the police station. So now we're gonna talk about what levers we want to pull to make that happen. Is that kind of the direction we want to head in now?
That sounds right. And I think the figure is 5.6 right now. 2.6
5.6.
for the library and 3 for the police station is 5.6, correct?
Yep. Now, do we want to talk about those in terms of, option A could be just
Bond them all.
bond them all.
So I will say that that option is pretty much presented to us. If you look at option 4,
Yep.
that is pretty close. It's just 250,000 higher. And that gives us an indication of what the tax impact of that is, and that is 0.54 mil. And then it also gives us impact on an average, it gives us 2 different values of home, $100,000 value and then a $250,000 value. So if you're looking at those numbers, you see under option 4, you see 0.54 would be the mill rate increase, $54 would be the tax increase on a $100,000 house, and $135 would be the increase on a $250,000 home. Correct, Clint?
Yeah, and I'd only add something probably, I don't know if we stated it, we are talking about 20-year bond issuances, 20 years, not.
Yeah.
Not a one-time thing.
Now, what do we retire? I know it was very helpful materials. Are we a long way from retiring? We have like 14 or 15 million in outstanding.
It's not that bad, but the packets are there. I've gone over this, the finance committee. We're 2034, I think, for the next significant retirement of debt. There's some little money falling off here and there, but not the next big one was 2034, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
So
and that's top of my head. I gotta dig to find.
we couldn't get a 50-year bond like these new mortgages they're floating, right? No.
And
Okay.
Dan, as we go into the next conversation about how we want to fund,
Mhm.
it's probably also helpful to compare, since the recommendation from staff in the concept summary has us paying for the police station without bonding. If we don't bond the police station section of that, then the tax impact is what you see in option 3. So you see 0.24 mil, $24 for a $100,000 home, and $61 for a $250,000 home. So
Now, is this the bonding consideration
yeah,
email?
in the bonding options spreadsheet, option
Okay.
3 and option 4. Does everyone see them?
Yeah. And
Just
where,
so we know
yeah.
what the numbers look like as we're talking. So if we paid for the police station fully without any bonding, we would be at a 0.24% mill increase. And if we bonded them both fully, we would be at approximately a 0.5 mill.
Where do we-
increase.
So where, and if I'm, in terms of staff recommendation, where does it,
That's in.
did you put where is it in the document? Did you put your name to it? How do we, like,
It's under concept summary.
What, the concept
Concept
one?
summary. The file's called concept summary, Dan.
okay.
In the attachment, yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Which almost should be called option F under number 4.
Yeah, it
Really,
was
that should really be option F if
I
we
got
looked at it. But
concerned we were giving too many options. So I started to slow up.
Yeah. But it is similar in that it doesn't involve any bonding for the police station. So the mill rate range is between 0.24 and 0.5, depending on how much we choose to bond
Mm-hmm.
and how much we choose to fund otherwise. Does that help as we frame the discussion?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairperson,
Sure.
if I may suggest, there seems to be two pieces here that there is some there's some disagreement about. The capital projects and unassigned fund balance. We know that whatever we don't take from those has to be bonded. So I think from
Right.
a procedural standpoint, let's just pick one of those, discuss.
Yep.
Jacob, I had only a little maybe tweak to that, which
Mhm.
is that in option, gosh, I have to go back to the other one now.
There's a lot to keep.
I know,
Yeah.
sorry. I was trying to see. So in option E, there were actually two other sources of funding, which staff, when they got to the concept recommendation, had eliminated. Could we agree as a council that we're going to support staff in eliminating those two funding options
Yeah.
then?
Which two are they? Can you articulate what?
Yeah,
Sorry.
maybe Clint can do it better again, but I believe that they are
They're
the
these right here.
reclassifying assigned reserves, the one where he said he wouldn't
Five.
want us to do that without a big, long council discussion going through every assigned fund and talking about it.
Yep.
And the next one is reclassifying 2026 capital projects, some things that aren't finished yet this year that we could reclassify funds from. And staff, by the time they got to their concept recommendation, had taken those two amounts out of their recommendation. And I would personally like to suggest that we support them in that and we take those two funding sources off the table.
It's-
And then we really are only looking at option F in the concept summary document. And we're back to what Jacob said.
Yeah, those amounts are so immaterial in my mind that whether we take them or don't,
All right.
I don't care.
So we got to come up with 5.6 million. And now we're going to discuss which of bonding, the 2027 capital budget and unassigned fund balance to how to get there.
Yeah. Well, also there's 250,000 suggested to come from the downtown TIF, which staff had recommended in their concept summary. I'm perfectly comfortable with that personally. If staff is recommending it, I am fine with that coming from the TIF.
We had consensus on the 250 from the TIF. Everyone okay with that? All right. So we get 250 from the TIF. Yeah, no, so I know, is it kind of, we're talking hundreds of thousands, not billions or trillions.
Just the,
so.
as you, Zach, interest on investment reserve, close to 2 still, isn't it? So, I mean, there's another 200, there's one reserve line that is never designated for anything, just sits there. I'm comfortable telling you there's at least 200,000. We're finishing up the audit. We got to get to an exact number, but if you're going to 250 a TIF, there's 200,000 in that one as well.
So we could potentially take that up to 450
Those-
between the
I would
TIF
add-
and
yeah,
that interest?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So everyone okay with that one too?
So that leaves
Round numbers and say we've got to come up with 5.2 million.
5.15, exactly, Jacob.
All right. So sorry.
And I have to give you a hard time sometime. It can't always be Dan.
I like it though. We team up with Jacob. All right. So we got to come up with 5.15.
5-ish.
Yep. And so how many people are comfortable with, is rating the right term, the unassigned fund balance, or no? I'm teasing. I'm teasing. How many people
Yeah, can we start
do the capital? All right. Does staff really want to set aside 1.2 million for capital? I'm putting you on the spot. I mean, I wasn't in these meetings, so I don't know how. I don't know that sometimes what an option versus
Wants a tough word with staff.
yeah.
I mean, the reality is you're here to define the wants and needs, and we're here to come up with the best levers you can pull. It is a lever you could pull. It is 1-2 is aggressive as we could push it.
Okay.
And it's ultra aggressive, but we took it to as much as we could do, and that's where we're at. And if you go that route, we're going to come up with a program for next year in capital that takes that into mind, that's the direction we're headed in. If you don't,
Typically it would be 1.5, so there's 300,000.
1,470,000 last year to be exact.
Okay. So how about would people meet us halfway and say 600,000 capital from capital in 2027?
Well, I was saying, I mean, on some level it can feel arbitrary, but I mean, that's not an insignificant mitigation of some of the cost there. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
The 600?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to form in a more coherent thought about it.
I disagree. I think we should take the amount that is being recommended. There is, again, me trusting, there's a backlog that there still will be work to do, and I understand the perception that, you know, we're putting public works projects on hold, but if it is saving us 40,000 plus in interest a year, I would like to take that full recommendation.
All right, I'm still pushing back on the term recommendation. You can push back on my term raid, and we'll agree that
All right.
we're using words, we're weaponizing our language a little bit.
We did sit in a lot of meetings
I
in
know.
Jacob's defense where we've asked this question on Finance Committee like 18 times. And every single time we've been
Okay.
told that there was actually reason why this was beneficial in some ways to staff. So if that's changed, I would really want to hear it. Because I'm coming in because of what I've been hearing every time I've asked. Not that, you know, there's other ways it could be done too, but what I heard was that Clint, you haven't really given details, but you gave me a lot of details about what I said. Okay, so some staff maybe at the top have things they need to be doing. What about line staff? What are they going to be doing if we're not paving roads? And you gave me long lists of everything they needed to catch up on. So I felt comfortable that staff was comfortable. So if you're not, I really would want to hear, but I just want to back Jacob up a little that we asked this question 18 times.
I know what it's like to be asked something 18 times though, and you get to the point where, okay, I recommend it. And I'm just,
It came in as a recommendation, is what I'm saying, not what you're saying.
Okay.
But it came in as a recommendation, and then we said, Jacob and I didn't even know about it. It came from staff as a recommendation, and we said, really? 18 times.
So again, came from a conversation between a former finance committee member and myself to look at it, see how much we could do. Staff and I looked at it and we can justify the break. That is the most we could use is 1.2. If you're hearing hesitancy, sure. If you don't use the 1.2, I'm already running my wheels on where we will put that capital programming money to. Will we put it to a fire truck reserve? Do we put it to an HVAC reserve? Does it go to strategic development reserves? Do we finish a baseball park that we've been wanting and it's been delayed for years? Do we set it aside for equipment needs in a department that rarely gets it? There are more needs than there are money. So that's where the wheels come from. If you shrink the 1.2, it's not like it's disappearing. I'm going to then add it back to the capital program and figure out what the best uses are. So if it was less than 1.2, we would be elated. If it's no more than 1.2, we'll make it work, is what I'm telling you.
Clint, if we, instead of not doing the capital freeze, though, if we left money in unassigned funds, you could equally well use unassigned funds for all those capital projects.
100%.
So it gives us more flexibility if the money sits in unassigned funds as opposed to if it sits in capital projects, when it has to be used for capital. So personally, if we're gonna not spend something, I'd rather see it sit in unassigned funds.
That's a good point.
so then would we, to compromise, would it make sense to not use any of the unassigned fund balance and then freeze the whole 1.2 million on the capital? Is that a way to do it?
You can still use it.
I
Yeah.
cut my legs out from under you, but
No, I can compromise on the 1.8, but to completely eliminate it, I think
Okay.
that we have reserves. We should be using them instead of going into additional debt.
what if we did 1 million, and this is such a, no, seriously, this is how we do it, trying to reduce it. What if we did 1 million on unassigned fund balance and then the 1.2 recommendation? I just imagine what those conversations were like. I mean, and then, so that's 2.2 of the 5.15.
Yeah.
And then the rest go to bond?
We push out capital, we could push out capital projects. And then instead of using the full 1.8 from unassigned, we use just
1
1
million.
million.
Yep. And then the rest would be bond. So
Yeah, I mean, yes, I feel like I'm the one that's holding this process up, but yeah, I like that idea.
That seems like a reasonable compromise to me.
And the TIF and reserve don't get used. They're still there for the projects as well.
I think that already had us
We already
using
agreed.
250 from the TIF and 200 from the interest was already taken out to get us to 5.15.
Okay, you're
So-
doing the math as you go. I
Yeah.
didn't realize you were doing
Yeah.
math as you go.
all right, so let me just say it again out loud. So 200 from the interest,
Yep.
Zach's interest money.
50
250 from the what? The TIF?
downtown TIF.
And then 1 million from unassigned fund balance 1.2 from capital. That gives us somebody
2.65.
2.65, 2.4. Yeah, it is, right?
2.95.
For bond.
Yeah, it's 2.95.
Yeah.
Oh, to
Yeah, we were doing it backwards. We were both right. So 2.65 from those four sources and then 2.95 to bond.
Is there any interest in, instead of taking a full million from unassigned, we divide it in half and spend half, save half?
No, not on my side. I would be comfortable going to the 1.8, so with Jacob on his recommendation.
Okay. That gets us there though. So
So
I don't wanna
cost
ship both,
wise,
but-
I'm just gonna say again, cost wise, if we're bonding the 2.95, the closest number we have on our options for people to take a look at would be option 3, right? Which had us bonding just 2.6. And that came in at a mill rate increase of 0.24. So bonding 2.95 is gonna be, I don't know what, Clint, 0.3, something like that ish. Maybe. Right. So our numbers there, we're looking at $100,000 house. It's a $24 increase and a 200, well, it'd be slightly higher. So 28 or something like that. Just so we know, that's the closest option we have. And I do want us to always, when we make these decisions, be conscious of what we're actually, saying to taxpayers. That's our closest option I see. So it'll be slightly higher than the 0.24 mil and slightly higher than the $25 per $100,000 of house value. Correct, Clint?
Yeah, I'm just double checking it really. 213 is what I'm looking as the debt service payment. So.
Not bad, huh? I mean, I didn't get the fire truck I wanted, but I'm sorry. I knew I wasn't gonna get it. So yeah.
None of us got everything.
That's right.
I should have put $3 million for the fire truck and then just kind of, all right.
Okay.
So are we ready to close this? We're gonna have to amend the action item when we get to it in a few minutes, right? So are we ready? Is everyone okay? I mean, everyone feels like we had a good conversation.
Clint, for the sake of simplicity, does it help you if this is 3 million instead of 2.95, or does the
Yeah,
bond
the-
agent really
for the
not
sake
care?
of
I'm
rounding.
kind of feeling like maybe we should round.
Yeah, for the sake of rounding, I think you should go to 3 because the bond council's probably not gonna, it's gonna say 2,950,000 is not a bondable number. Just call it an even 3.
And that's actually a really good point and question. So to bond $3 million, notwithstanding interest, I think it's important to talk about what it's actually going to cost us.
It's gonna be
Between
9 million with
The
the
legal fees, bond counsel, all in.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
So the bond advisor will wrap all his costs into the bond issuance itself, so they'll be financed. Otherwise, you were looking at some, I think we had the quote and it was around $60,000, I think he put in his proposal. But if we do the bonds, he will work those into the bonds and that's
he will.
traditional. As far as our attorney, we will pay the attorney out of the attorney's fees budget and it's not gonna be cheap, but it's been a while since I've done one. I'll have to ask bond advisor you've always used is Bernstein Sure. I would keep them. They're very good at it.
But
so
are we
I-
talking hundreds of thousands?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
And at least we've now not used the entire 1.8 in the unassigned fund. So hopefully we are not bonding again in 2 or 3 years. I would just like to say to council that I'd like us to try really hard when we get any extra money, if anything extra comes from the state or anywhere else, to be aware that otherwise we'll be back, right? So to be aware going forward, I'd really love us to try not to be bonding again. And I'd like us to give our best effort to the taxpayers on that.
Agreed.
Okay. So are we ready for us to close this presentation?
Dan, we maybe also just want to say for the record that we are not bonding only the 3 million because there is also the 6 million for the sewer. So just for the public record,
Sure.
it's
6
3
million.
million plus 6 million for the sewer.
total.
So that is 9 million total,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. It's 6,080,000. Is that what the number is?
For what?
How much was it? What's the
We're gonna end up doing 6 million on the wastewater.
6 million straight?
Yeah, I mean, because we're gonna get into chasing a number of multiple projects. It's prioritized Route 2, Sludge Press, Pine Street and Bennick, 6 million total. It may or may not get you there. It may have money left over. You gotta round it at some point and just say you gotta go with it, because I have no idea what Pine Street, the Hillside project will cost us 3 years from now when we actually do it.
Let's think
Okay,
about,
so you're comfortable rounding that to 6? Because I think in your original things, it was 6.2, what I'm looking at on this spreadsheet. But if you're comfortable with 6, we rounded one up, we round one down, I'm okay, but
Thought we were at 6 even.
all right, let's figure it out.
Yeah, 6
between-
million, no, just call it 6. Just
Sure,
call it
okay.
6.
And maybe EJ can, he's
We're
probably
just
already
going
working on selling the naming rights to the sludge press.
Yeah.
Which ought to defray some of the cost.
Yeah.
The naming
That-
rights for the sludge press.
Yeah, I got some ideas.
maybe
Okay.
it should be named after the council. Dan.
The 25-26 council sludge press. All right. Well, that was good work. It took longer than we budgeted for, but well, I guess everything does a little bit. That ends discussion, item E, discussion on bonding. Thank you for the good work, and we'll work up an amendment for when we get to it. Public hearings, we have none. Is that right? So we just saved some time there. Acknowledgements by council members. I already did mine first. Let's start with Rob on your end. And work our way left to right.
I have none right now. Thank you.
Andrea?
I have a couple. I've noticed that Pike Project Development has started work on Penobscot Street already. And I noticed that because of the number of dump trucks rolling in and out of Crosby Street. And I just would like to say, whoever is in charge of the drivers, thank you, because they're not speeding through. I'm hearing them and seeing them stop at the stop sign. So thank you for the responsible driving through the neighborhood. And this one, thank
Great.
for,
Is there anything to update on that? Is it?
is that Public Works? Okay, then Public Works, thank you. Cody, thank you for making the video that you did. And thank you to everyone who helped with the Scott Scripture Thanksgiving dinner. For those of you who didn't know him, to our family, he was Scrippy. He served with kindness and compassion. And Scott took the time to know not just the streets of Orono, but the people who live here. So I'm thanking everyone who was involved in keeping the tradition of service and kindness and Scott's name alive. So,
Well done. Sarah?
Thank you, Andrea. It's really moving. I just also wanted to have a shout out to Public Works. I know, I'm not sure what happened with the pipe under the railway. Maybe Clint could tell us, is it done or is it still, they're coming back to do it later? But the thank you to Public Works is in the work that was getting to try to get that pipe in. There were a lot of really big potholes that were showing up on North Main, and Public Works got right out there and filled them all up. And I know folks in my neighborhood have expressed their gratitude. And as somebody who wiped out on Halloween, stepping in a 2-foot deep pothole in the dark, I am so grateful. So thank you. I couldn't believe how fast they were filled once that work, I guess it's on hold and not done, but maybe you can answer that, Clint. Anyway, thank you to Public Works.
Yep. Matt?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Jacob?
Nothing at this time.
John?
Nothing. Thank you.
Yep. It's good to have gratitude. Important. Thank you. I'm teasing you guys again. All right. So, and thank you for helping us catch up a little bit. Next up is the consent agenda. I'm gonna ask to pull order 25296 for a minor amendment to the Good Neighbor Committee charge that Sarah emailed me about. Anybody else have anything on the consent agenda they want to pull or question about?
I don't think it needs to be pulled, but I was just going to give an explanation as to why the finance committee piece is there new for the first time.
Go ahead.
Just that, so theoretically, or yes, the council will now start seeing these on a quarterly basis. As per, new finance committee, not charge, but we decided that it's important to have council see these. We review them on a monthly basis, but council will see them on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
I was wondering about pulling 25289. I had asked Clint a question about that, just clarifying, and maybe nobody else is interested, but I just assume it was on the record that this isn't something that requires a public hearing, and some of the things Clint can quickly answer about it.
Okay. So we'll pull 25289 and we'll pull the one I said 25296. Sorry. Anything else? Okay. Could I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor? Yeah, it's unanimous. And now we're on to action items. And why don't we just do those last? The ones we pulled, we'll do at the end. Order 25298, approving changes to the Your Voice Matters service promise. Can we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. This was just some minor revisions and update to the service promise based on the conversations we had at the retreat and just kind of observations. Anybody have anything else they want to add or ask? Any comments from the public? All those in favor? Order 25298 is approved unanimously. Order 25299, order affirming the town council 25-26 council year goals. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second, sorry.
Second.
Sometimes I don't have to ask. Same thing. We had a really good retreat. Thank you to all the staff again. If there's something to acknowledge, that would have been a good acknowledgement too. That was a really great meeting. So made the updates. Any questions or concerns?
No questions or concerns. Just no, I had to leave early that day, and looking at the great work that came out of that, I really appreciate everything that everybody did. And I was sad not to spend the rest of the evening with you all working on that stuff.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Order 25300, order authorizing town manager to purchase SCBA air packs, air fill station replacement units for $261,911 with funds drawn from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any presentation or the memos speak for themselves, Glenn, on this one?
Memo speaks and the fire department's here if you'd like to speak to him.
Anybody have anything they want to hear? Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. All those in favor? It was unanimous, right? Order 25300 was unanimous. Order 25301, order authorizing the town manager to proceed with bonding and to schedule a public hearing pursuant to town ordinance and state law. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved in second. Clint, do you want us to amend this with what we just heard, or you think you've got enough to come back with a plan?
My first time with you, right now, following the law and you set out the plan, you made it very clear where we're going with this. You have to take other votes. These will be fully disclosed in the numbers and the costs. It may be redundant to just keep voting it, but again, there's always the risk that it takes too long and there's different counselors here, different people, or people forget what they did. It's nice to have a record.
Maybe we just put bonding 9 million since that's what we just agreed to.
Yeah.
Just add 9 million as
Add
an
9
amendment.
million
That will
to it.
make that
Yep.
motion.
That's not a bad idea.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion about the amendment? Any comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor of the $9 million amendment? Okay, easy enough.
Sounds
Which it
terrible,
wasn't
though.
quite that easy, but it's been a lot of work. All right, and now, I was getting to it. Yep, that's all right. I get them wrong a lot more than I get them right, so you don't have to agree. Order 25301 as amended with the $9 million. All those in favor? Good. That is unanimous. Yeah, all right, now back to order 289. And Sarah, do you want to take over the discussion on that for a second? I'll be right back.
Sure. Which one
That's
are you
the-
at?
Order authorizing tax collector to waive.
Oh, the one I asked for.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I just was curious why we were doing it, and Clint gave me a very succinct explanation. I was curious why and if it needed a public hearing. Would you mind just restating it?
Yeah, so we're not taking possession. We're choosing, we will still have a lien against the parcels. We're just choosing not to let them automatically foreclose. We don't like taking possessions of mobile homes because usually they're unique settlement agreements. I can't speak to every single one that's on the list, but that's the general answer for them as a whole.
I'm very comfortable with that. Does anyone else have any questions? Are you going to call a vote, Dan, or did you want
Yep.
me to do that?
Nope,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, let's vote. I'm gonna stick around. It won't take that long. All right, all those in favor of order 25289? We don't have a motion.
moved.
Sorry. Sarah, you got a motion at first. I'm sorry. So yeah, I was,
Somebody else just did.
all those in favor? Sorry. All right, and now we're gonna do a minor change to order 295-296. Could I have a motion to put it on the table?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. So I'd like to amend the charge to the special committee for the Orono Good Neighbor Committee to say that there are what was it, 15 members, Sarah?
Well, the charge currently said up to 12 community members, but at the bottom, since we added university participants, we actually currently have 8 citizen participants and 5 university participants for 13. So you could either just say 13 or you could say up to 14 or 15, whatever number you want. But if you don't change it, we're already out of compliance.
Okay, so let's change it to, say, up to, let's say, are you okay with up to 15? Rob, you're the
That's
co-chair.
fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then while we're amending with that same, as part of that same amendment, can we put John Quinn on as this is a dated document, right, that we put in here. So can we add John Quinn as the council member in the minutes?
Great.
Okay, so the motion now is on the amendment to make it up to 15 and to add John Quinn, who we already approved at our last meeting anyway. So all those in favor of the amendment?
So moved.
Second. Move the amendment? All right, so I apologize. This is,
You're doing great.
thank you. I need a motion on the amendment. I think I moved it and then Rob seconded it.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And then, so all those in favor of the amendment? All right, thank you. All those now I don't have to motion again. I don't have to go through the motion of a motion again, right? All those in favor of the underlying order as amended. Thank you very much. I apologize. All right, now we're gonna do council committee reports, right? Number 10, can we do community development first?
We have no updates since last time yet because we will be meeting, except for we will be having a new time and date. We will be meeting the third Wednesdays of the month at 10 a.m.
Okay. Finance and operations?
No update at this point. No update at this time. Our meetings will continue to be before the second council meeting at 3:45.
Nominations, evaluations, and council policies committee?
Our meeting time also stays the same as what it was the previous year, 9 a.m. on the second Thursday of the month, and we continue on the policy and procedures manual.
Ordinance review?
We have not met since the last council meeting. As was just voted on in the consent agenda, we're going to be meeting at 9 a.m. on the third Thursday of the month.
Okay, thanks, Rob. DEIB?
No update.
Okay. Comprehensive plan, we have the public hearing on the comprehensive plan at the next meeting, right? The 15th. So that's the update there. Council chair update. So we already did the potluck thing. So Andrea, thank you very much again for that. I would share, we got an email before at the start of the holiday weekend where someone asked a question, and then I'm not going to get at the base of the question, but I wanted to get to kind of a point about whether counselors should respond to people instead of it used to kind of be the impression, or at least that was the impression I had when I started as well, that only the council chair ever responded to constituents with email. Please don't. I mean, I'm happy to respond, but you're all elected, and I feel like every one of us is totally, we need to be careful that we speak for ourselves as individual counselors, and be careful about not speaking for the council, and that's certainly something I do as well. I make a point as a counselor. But please don't ever hesitate to respond back. You don't have to copy whatever, but if someone reaches out to you and you want to respond, you don't have to, but please feel welcome to. So,
Thanks, Dan.
Dan, I wanted to second, like, the draft of the existing policy and procedures manual that went to all of you reiterates what Dan just said, that the council chair will respond to every email so that people always get a response, and will BCC the rest of us on his formal response. But the rest of us always have the right to respond individually, making it clear that we are not speaking for council.
okay. Town manager's report.
So just a couple ones. Had a meeting with MDOT and staff regarding the Route 2 CDS. The project continues. I think the biggest update to understand is this is all now state funded through and CDS funded. There's no local money into that project. We're looking and talking, and we're going to continue to communicate. We got to have some beginnings of some introductory informational sessions with the public. It's a much smaller section. It is being done consistent with the concept plan that was done with Sebago. That is on our website for people to see. That is the starting point. They still got to confirm right away. It's going to take a couple years. But we do feel at this point, because of the transparency and engagement we involved earlier on, that it would be nice to have a meeting. It probably does mean that people on the entire corridor will show up wondering what the status is. There is no status. There's no big project right now. We only have a much smaller project, and it's been elected to focus on the downtown, this core area, where there is the majority of sidewalk issues. We have some very poor sidewalks, and it does set the middle of the community up. So as we spread out to the other ends, there's more going on in this area, probably wrong, for lack of a better term, with traffic than throughout the rest of the quarter. Not that any of them are perfect. But again, that's where we're going. I'll keep you posted as we know more. Scheduling it as we move into budget season is going to be interesting, but we want to make sure we open up that dialogue and have some time. And we're going to work with MDOT because they will have some public meetings as well. But theirs are much further out. It will be quite a while till they host a public meeting on what they're coming up with a concept. So we feel like it's a good time just to heads up everybody. The Webster Railroad update. I could read off the information I've been shared in hours. Short of it is they paved it over. There's no solution that was viable. They couldn't get anybody to come together to get it done. Thibodeau is working with boring contractors. They're working with other ideas for an open cut to the track. They're going to see what option comes together. They will be back in the spring to finish it. That's the plan. And we knew that was a possibility. We didn't think it was going to happen that way, but that's what ended up happening. So just want to make sure. And then the last one is we had a review. Safety Works is a division of the Maine Department of Labor. For lack of a better term, they come in here on a voluntary compliance. They reviewed all our stuff. We have a to-do list. It was a great list to work from to make our properties safer and compliant with all the rules and regulations. If anybody wants to see it, there's copies available of it, but we'll have our response plan and correction remedies in soon. But it is something that's very interesting. Like I said, they came in, they spent a day with us. They toured every building. They inspected everything from whether an eye wash station had been inspected to the inspections of our fire extinguishers to everything else. We follow by the same rules that we enforce on the community in the public buildings. We just do it in different methods. It's hard to inspect yourself, so we bring them in. I think it's once every 2 years. We do have an active safety committee going again. I've talked a little bit with the council, but we have a staff safety committee that's reviewing these, adopting new policies. But it was a great step forward, I think, and it just shows that we're being very proactive in how we maintain them. Any questions, or if you ever want to see it? It was a thick report, a lot of pages just telling you, and again, not a lot into it, but every single citation's an individual page telling you what they found and what you got to do to fix it. So, yeah, that's
Excellent.
it.
Thank you. We don't have any public petitions, any future agenda items, and council requests for supporting items.
When were we next slated to potentially talk about the food bank issues? Because I know that I wasn't at the meeting subsequent to when I had asked the Orono Health Association and the folks from Caring Community Cover to come in.
Is the 15th too soon or too busy an agenda? Do you think, Clint, looking at it?
I don't think I already wrote it. I don't think it's too busy. I just don't know if it's too soon.
Yeah.
No. That's fine. I mean, whenever it makes sense. Just wanted
What's
to
that?
make sure I brought it up since I wasn't sure exactly what had, if any decisions had been made about when we were
We'll see if we
next
could-
going to discuss it.
Yeah. Council
see.
Marks, you had something to?
Well, I am aware that winter is a specifically hard time for folks, that heating costs go up. And I also know that some folks on council brought up wanting to have a discussion that I had asked to expand, to talk about what kind of resources and help we're providing for anyone who's unhoused in our community. So to me, both the unhoused issue and the food issue get significantly worse very quickly come January. So if it is possible to have the discussion in December, it would seem timely to me. And I know it's a pretty big discussion. So
Yeah.
if we can't, we can't. But I guess I would give us a little push to try, because these issues become really acute for folks this time of the year.
Thanks for saying that. I think that makes sense if we can.
Yep. Do you think you can have the folks that were interested for the
Um,
15th?
I'll reach out and see. I mean, I imagine they have a lot of interest in making sure they're a part of these discussions. So I can reach out.
How about a presentation type item at the top of the meeting on the 15th?
Sure, and I'd like us to
Okay.
be ready to discuss potentially sort of what kind of financial options we are or aren't willing to entertain.
Okay.
Andrea had something.
Yeah, Andrea?
Can we send out a notice to Black Bear Mutual Aid about that in case they want to participate too?
It's a good point.
And Clint, would it be possible, perhaps if staff would speak with some of the folks at the churches right here in the center of town who are also doing a lot of direct relief to folks around food and also folks who are unhoused? In particular, I'm sure the CUF is, and I believe the Methodist Church is. And I do think it would be nice to invite them also and perhaps have some discussions with them ahead of time.
Is this more of a community conversation and not a council meeting agenda item now?
Well, I mean,
It's a
feels
lot
like
of parties
go
that
at-
are all going to want to
it's
talk.
not a bad point. I think Clint, it's a good point in terms of,
I think we start it and we see what more needs to happen, but I would like us to start it and just make sure we're inviting stakeholders we know who are pretty
Yeah.
involved in helping on these issues already.
I also don't, I mean, I think I think, Sarah, you're right that these are connected issues. At the same time, I think there may be distinct asks or things to be thought of between the food insecurity issues and the housing or lack of housing issues and what comes out of those. And I don't want to muddy the waters of sort of what needs to be decided between those. I don't know. I'm still in favor of having those discussions and the urgency of both of them. Just wondering how we can also make efficient use of all the folks' time if we ask various stakeholders to come in. I don't know how we might organize that. Okay.
okay.
Regardless, I can reach out to the folks already mentioned to
You got the Black Bear Mutual Aid. You want me to reach? I
I reach out to them too.
Okay.
I'll write that down.
Yep. Anything else? Future agenda items of concern? Public comment? Any final public comment this evening? Okay. Executive session. We're not expecting any action after this. So this is good night for everybody, I guess. Is that right? But we're gonna have a motion. Motion moving, okay, moved in second. All those in favor moving into executive session pursuant to one MRSA 4056C.